Yo, hey, talking about it, quit talking about it. Straight through the floor, I'm falling in. Came through the door, straight stumbling. Still watch the film, be double length. If it ain't part the script, then it don't trouble with me. Came from the east, brought you tales from the...
The Stoner 63 is arguably one of the lightest and most versatile saw platforms on the market currently. However, that doesn't mean that it's a perfect system. Core likes to do certain body mods to make it more versatile for the end user, as well as updating it to our unit standards. This includes lightening it even more than it already is, as well as chopping the stock to a manageable length, adding Picatinny rails to the top of the mock heat shroud, and a few other mods. This video will also show you how to prep the barrel system. Whether you are taking the barrel assembly to a machinist to have the barrel mod done by them, or are able to do it yourself with a lathe, this will show you what needs to be done prior to part 4. Also, provided in the description will be 3D printable files for the box mag clips and some other parts that will help enhance the Stoner's functionality. Just remember, what we do and show you here is only meant to be instructional and a guide to show you how Core runs their Stoner systems. We implore you to come up with your own mods and make it your own to work for the end user.
To start the stock chop, you will first have to remove the butt pad if you have not done so already. If your sling point is still attached from the bottom, take a Dremel with a cutting bit to it and cut that off, otherwise it can become a projectile and safety hazard for you later in the stock chop process. Core likes to chop the stock so it would be the same length as a closed position AR stock. This was measured from the back of the pistol grip to the back of the original stock. It means you have to take off 1 3/4 of an inch off of the back of the stock. If you want something that is more comfortable for you or longer, then you can choose a shorter or longer length. However, provided in the description is a free 3D printable file to create a more comfortable stock pad versus the standard Kydex one that you see most people have on the rifle. Mark where you want to cut the stock parallel to the end. I use a sewing gauge here to get a consistent length from the back of the stock to where I cut. Remember to take into account the width of your cutting blade into your measurements. Measure twice, cut once. The easiest thing that you can do to get a consistent and even cut is to use a table saw with a fence and set that to the required distance and cut it from there. I recommend starting your 3D print if you are using that as your option. This is just a stock that I have finished with a matte paint and a slight rubber coating. This may not perfectly fit into your stock. In this case, the areas that I am pointing to may need to be sanded down with a file to get the perfect fit. If you accidentally take off too much, you can either get an O-ring to fit around it or print a new one. As you can see, there's a nub where the old sling point was that is no longer needed and can be sanded off, as well as adding a new sling point option instead of drilling through the body. You can do this by looking at the bottom of the stock. As you can see, the molding flash around the center of the stock is where you are going to want to attach the new QD sling adapter. Where you put it is up to you. I find that it is most comfortable when you put it slightly off center, towards the body of the rifle, where it won't get in the way of the user's grip. This is up to you, but the general area that I place it is a good spot. Mark where you want it with a nail set right along the mold flash line. No need to press hard, just lightly. It's just plastic and you don't want to crack the stock on accident. Drill out those 2 holes with a bit slightly smaller than the screw size of your adapter. While you are at it, sand down that little nub. This next part was hard to film, but screw in the screws into the hole that you just made. You should create threading in the plastic. On top of this, I highly recommend that you also attach nuts to the inside of these screws for extra support and load distribution. Something else that Core has come to find out is that you can add QD slings into all of these slots instead of using paracord or a Magpul RSA. For this, you're going to drill out a 3/8 inch hole into each of the holes highlighted here. It allows you to then plug a QD sling adapter into any of these points. Once finished, you can do one of two things. You can use a deburring tool or a Dremel tool with a ball bit to help you clean up the edges of the holes for entry and exit of the QD sling point. Once this is finished, you can move to working on adding Picatinny rails and lightening the stoner. This piece here is for adding a mock belt of rounds to the stoner. However, what it really does is just get hooked on articles of clothing, gear, and slings when transitioning shoulders. This can be fixed by simply removing the two rivets that hold it in place. Take a Dremel with a sanding bit and carefully go over the rivets until you can push them through the holes without damaging the metal. The next piece of this can be complicated and will be the most precise if you have some sort of milling machine. You're going to want to drill holes for a Picatinny rail that will be added to the top cover. The best way to do this is to measure the center point between these two hinges here and mark it with a pencil or dicum. As you can see, someone previously drilled holes here that were quite off center. I will be showing you how to do this on a basic drill press though, as that's what most of you will end up having. You are going to want to place the Picatinny rail that you plan on using and use a nail set to make small indentations in the metal as a guide as to where you will be drilling. Once that is done, you can go ahead and put the nuts and bolts to attach it to the top of the stoner. This same philosophy will be applied to adding the Picatinny rail to the top of the mock heat shield. Mark the center based off of the inside of the mock heat shield as seen here, and then make small marks with a nail set, and you can begin drilling.
Rozpoczęliśmy produkcję.
Once this is done, you can begin attaching it. However, as you do this, make sure that everything is center and not more off to one side, as it can throw off your alignment of an IR aiming device. That being said, you can adjust it worst case scenario, but don't expect that you will always be accurate. If you choose to do so, you can also stipple your grip. Just don't stipple around the area where the fire selector moves through. If you want to attach a non-stock box mag to the stoner, you're going to need to create a box mag clip. This can be done with a 1/16" galvanized steel that can be found at any of your local hardware stores, and with the pattern that I have linked in the description. Measure twice and cut once. Take into account the thickness of the metal that you are using. The template I give you is just a rough guide. I recommend cutting out a piece of the paper and folding it to see where the lines that you need are cut and how to cut it out. Start by cutting out the box mag clip from the template provided. This will work for both the M249 and MK48 box mags. You can start by folding the metal over on the edges where it will fit to your box mag. I can't tell you where that is. It helps to have a metal machine vise as well as a hammer to help fold these over. Start with the angled pieces. Take your time and make adjustments as needed. Make sure you constantly keep testing and fitting the box clip to your box magazine. Once the angles have been folded over, you can easily make the 90-degree foldovers. Take your time and constantly measure. You are also going to have to drill screw holes and latch holes into your box mag clip. Again, the template is only a reference and you will have to determine and judge where these need to go for your box mag. Make it as wide as it needs to be. As you can see here, this is how it should attach and look minus the paint. Sorry I couldn't show you this, but it will be different for everybody. Of course you are going to have to attach this to the body of your rifle. I unfortunately lost some of the footage, so I will explain it the best I can. I spared you some time with not showing you me drilling the holes, and instead will show you where I roughly drilled my holes. The best way for you to find where to attach this is to see where the clip and box mag will fit between the front of the trigger housing and between the through holes for where the old box mag clip used to be attached. This can be done just by putting the box mag under the rifle with the clip attached and seeing where it fits. Make sure that the box mag sits center and even on the rifle. From here you can attach it with bolts and nylock nuts to the rifle. Before part 4, do yourself a favor and prepare the barrel for your machinist or yourself if you are doing it. Mark where you are going to cut the barrel. In the description, I have also provided the prints for multiple barrel sizes that I have done for other people. Before you cut anything, make sure that you are absolutely positive that this is the length you want to cut the barrel. Once you cut it, you'll have a hard time finding a replacement without buying a new rifle. Once you are sure of the length that you want, you can then cut the barrel. The same thing can be done with the inner barrel, which lengths I have also provided in the prints for the corresponding barrel sizes. Before you do it, however, you are going to want to remove the hop-up unit from the rifles so you don't damage the bucking or any other moving parts of the hop-up. I've seen too many people break these because they don't know how to take them apart properly. Start by removing the spring from the barrel and then remove this tab that is in front of the dial. Just lift straight up, it is the barrel alignment clip. Once this is done, slide the dial off the O-ring and you can gently remove the hop-up. Don't forget to remove the hop-up arm like I did here. You can lose your nub or damage your bucking. Once this last piece is removed, cut the inner barrel to your desired length. On the left here is an improved feeding mechanism hop-up spring that is made of steel. On the right is the stock brass one that comes with the rifle. It will break and will become compressed to a point where it no longer has any spring tension. Start by taking these two screws out of the top of the feeding mechanism. You will then have two more screws to remove. Be careful and take your time here as to not lose or break any of these small screws and parts. You will thank me later. You can then remove these next two screws. The old springs that I showed you will be under here. Be careful as sometimes they like to pop out. Here you can see there are two new springs. The spring on the left has been cut down while the spring on the right is stock. You are going to want to cut down your springs roughly to this size, otherwise they are going to be too strong for the hop-up block and will constantly pop off on you. Once you have cut them down, quickly file the end that you just cut so there are no edges that easily snag on anything. To put this back together, start by putting the springs onto the small bolt sticking through the top of the housing holding the wires down. Once this is done, carefully fold the two halves back together so that the two springs hit the contact points and the black lever that controls the latching mechanism sits into its chassis. This can be tricky, so just take your time. Once this is done, place the two screws that came out of here back into the same holes that they came out of. You are then going to want to flip it over and press the two brass contacts on the bottom to make sure that they have some spring tension. If one of them doesn't move, it most likely means that the spring isn't sitting right in the housing the right way, or the cut end is catching on something. If so, take it apart and try again until both have close to the same tension. From here, you can start putting it back together with the last two screws and make sure that all the screws are hand tight. Stay tuned for the barrel chop video coming soon.